Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back. It is episode number 32 of the summer career mode. Just want to apologise firstly for no videos yesterday. Basically, I had a surgical operation on Tuesday and I've been basically lying on my back for the past few days. So I had a few videos scheduled to be uploaded in my absence, but yeah, unfortunately missed yesterday. Apologies for that, but daily uploads should return from here on out. So yeah, heading into today's game, we're starting with RB Leipzig in the Champions League last 16 first day. Of course, topped our group. Last year finished runners-up after losing the final group game to Leverkusen. This year, I made sure to not make the same mistake. And our reward, if you will, is, again, RB Leipzig. Still a very strong German side. And it's why I often say this, but in the Champions League, yes, of course, you want to top your group. Yes, of course, you want to get through it undefeated in 6. Yes, you want the momentum. And yes, you want the chance of possibly facing a weaker team. But it's a Champions League. You're going to face someone strong regardless, man. You don't make the Champions League last 16 if you're not a strong team regardless. So, yeah, heading to the Red Bull Arena. And I guess in today's episode, I kind of want to talk about RB Leipzig and Salzburg and also just club ownership in general, because over the past, I would say really just the first 5 years, really, there's been a lot more emphasis on club owners. Beforehand, it used to be the sort of thing which, if it affected your club, then you would have an opinion on it. But nowadays, everyone seems to have an opinion on every club's owners. And it seems as though there's kind of like no-goes, if you will. Like certain club owners that simply cannot be accepted or wanted, if you will, by a club. So obviously, as we know, there's been lots and lots of big changes in ownership for some major European clubs over the past, again, 5 years, 10 years, even going back slightly further than that. You know, obviously with RB Leipzig and RB Salzburg as well, and RB Bragantino, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but the Brazilian one, the Red Bull franchise. You know, let's not beat around the bush here. We know what RB stands for, the Red Bull. Obviously, for legal reasons, they can't call themselves Red Bull Leipzig, Red Bull Salzburg, but we know what the RB stands for, Red Bull. The Red Bull franchise has been, you know, dipping their toes into the football team market, or they did dip their toes into it, and now they've got a few clubs in their collection. Oh, and of course, New York Red Bulls. How can I forget about them? They started the whole thing. And, you know, they get a lot of, like, stick. You know, they get an awful lot of criticism. They get an awful lot of stick. You know, I wouldn't want to support a team that's basically just an energy drink, you know. But when you look at, like, you know, club owners and so on, we've seen the amount of backlash that Newcastle United got. What on earth was Emi Odero doing here, by the way? Backlash Newcastle United got for accepting the Saudi-backed consortium, and then everyone suddenly cares about the human rights record of Saudi Arabia and so on and so forth, and then that gets slated. And then, of course, what we're seeing right now is with Manchester United, the Glazers, who are being hated really ever since they arrived at Old Trafford way back in the day. And for the past 12 months, there's been a lot of talks that the Glazers are going to sell up, and we're going to see either Jim Ratcliffe, the English-born businessman, or also a Qatari-backed consortium trying to take over and take charge of Manchester United, one of the biggest clubs worldwide in terms of marketability and reputation. Now, obviously, you know, it seems as though to me, whenever we talk about club owners and ownerships of football clubs, if you want to be a football club owner in today's climate, with how expensive it costs to buy a football club at the very top level, you're going to have a ridiculous amount of wealth backed behind you. Now, I do remember there was a Finnish businessman, whose name I can't remember, that also tried to throw his hat into the ring of taking over Manchester United, but it kind of emerged that basically he didn't have enough money. And even though he earns, you know, more than me, you, and all of my subscribers combined, he still doesn't have anywhere close to enough money to buy and subsequently inherit and you know, run a club of Manchester United size. And that kind of just shows you how much money is involved in modern day football at the very, very top level. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is that when we see clubs like I said, the Red Bull franchise, for example, that set up a club, or when we see the Saudi-based consortium taking over at Newcastle United, and people want to start talking about the ethics of running clubs of that size, I'm here to tell you right now, like, it is practically impossible to run a club of that size, or I should say buy a club of that size in 2023 without having that ridiculous amount of wealth backed behind you. And to accrue that kind of wealth in 2023 can only really be done, let's be honest here, by unethical practices. It's practically impossible to, I mean, I'm sure you guys see this all the time, it's practically impossible nowadays to be, you know, a 100% ethical billionaire. Is it doable? I'm sure, no doubt about it, but it comes at a massive cost and inconvenience as well. Not a lot of people are going to take on that burden, and so nowadays, if you are going to buy a football club of the stature of Manchester United or Liverpool in this day and age, the chances are it's only going to really attract the richest of the rich due to the club's valuation and the turnovers of those clubs as well. How much you can get for those clubs and how much they will cost to buy. It's not pocket change, and that goes without saying. So when it comes to Red Bull, sorry, going back to my original point here, when it comes to Red Bull, I see a lot of people giving like stick for fans of clubs like RB Leipzig or RB Salzburg and so on. And I want to say, well, can we just be honest here? Like, first of all, like, they have invested heavily into those clubs. And we're not just talking on the pitch, but also off the pitch with the infrastructure and so on and so forth. They've taken over, in Leipzig's case, in a place where there wasn't a professional football team to begin with. And they've done it the right way by rising themselves through the ranks, if you will. And for those that criticise Red Bull for being a franchise, well, unlike Milton Keynes Dons, an area where I'm from, of course, they didn't take over Wimbledon, stay where they were in the English Football League. No, Red Bull Leipzig went all the way down in the German football pyramid. Now, of course, obviously the English football pyramid is, I believe, the biggest one in the world. But even so, the point I'm trying to make is that ultimately they've kind of done it the right way. They've done it the right way. And if someone was to bash like an RB Leipzig fan, for example, I'd say to them, well, what's the alternative? Because it seems like you can't win. You want to support your local football club where there was no one from Leipzig. Now there is. So now you're in a catch-22. What, I can't support Leipzig even though I'm from Leipzig because they're owned by an energy drink, a soft drink or whatever? Right, okay, so how do I win that? Like, I want to support local. You keep banging on about how I need to support local. My local club is now RB Leipzig, and now I can't support them either because they're owned by an energy drink and a bit of a franchise. Right, okay, how do I navigate that? How do I win that one, And I feel as though people just get into this, like, so much. And I want to point this out. You can't own a club of that size, and they're still off the size of a club like, again, a Manchester United or a Liverpool, for example, but you can't own a club of that size without being a franchise with a ridiculous amount of wealth behind you, or again, a businessman or a businesswoman that is a multi-billionaire that has accrued their wealth unethically. Like, very, very few businesswomen can accrue that amount of wealth unethically. And this is not me capitalism bashing, not at all, but it is true. To accrue the amount of wealth that you would need to buy a football club of the stature of, again, Manchester United, Liverpool, I don't know why I keep picking those teams, but even so, you're going to have a ridiculous amount of billions behind you. And to get those amount of billions and do it all 100% ethically is practically impossible in the modern age. So, yeah, that's one thing that I really do feel people need to kind of get off their high horse a little bit when it comes down to criticising club owners and the way that clubs are run. Because ultimately, if we're talking about the mega money that's involved in modern day football now at the top level, which is Champions League and beyond, well, the fact of the matter is, if a club's going to be put up for sale with their estimated valuation, they're not going to attract the likes of your favourite YouTuber who has 200,000 subscribers. Okay, we're going to be talking about the richest of the rich, billionaires, businessmen, businesswomen in the world, So I think we need to sort of separate this kind of football from ethics kind of standpoint and realise that ultimately, if a person takes over a club in this day and age, and it's a club of such massive stature, I'm sorry, but you're not going to attract your favourite ethical businessman. It's not going to happen. You might find it at a lower league level. You'll be pleased to see Wilfred Zaha and Stormzy buying AFC Croydon. That's amazing. Absolutely amazing. I'm a massive fan of both of them. Love Stormzy. Heaviest Head Wears the Crown, one of my favourite albums, and from a British artist. Zaha, phenomenal player. Speaks for itself. To invest locally in AFC Croydon, amazing. But Stormzy and Zaha couldn't come together and buy Chelsea. When Abramovich was basically forced to sell. It wasn't going to happen. So ultimately, we need to kind of separate this football from ethics standpoint. So when clubs like RB Leipzig get criticised, I do kind of think to myself, but what's the alternative? What's the alternative? If not Red Bull, then we might be looking at like a Saudi-based or Qatari-based or whatever else consortium, and then people would start to get on their high horse about human rights and so on, like what we've seen with Newcastle United. So I don't yeah, I think we just need to separate this and just focus on the football, basically, because at this level, in this day and age, you are not going to get ethical businessmen and businesswomen running the biggest of biggest world football teams unless they've been there for decades on end. Did that make sense today? I certainly hope I did. Maybe I woke up on the wrong side of bed. I don't know. I've recovered from this surgery. Basically, I had surgery on Tuesday, and I am just in absolute agony. I've basically been on my back for the past 3 days. I'll reveal more in time. Don't worry. But I'm fine. I'm getting there. But maybe I woke up in the wrong side of bed this morning. But I guess I just wanted to talk about that because I knew I was going to be showing you the RB Leipzig game today, which of course we got through to face Juve in an all-Italian Champions League quarter-final. And yeah, for Red Bull fans, if you will, I don't understand why they get criticised so much, man. I really, really don't. You know, you can't pick your owners at 2023 modern day football level at this stature in the Champions League. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you for watching. Once again, sorry for no video yesterday. Like I mentioned, basically been on my back in agony for the past few days, but I'm slowly getting better. I've got so much codeine, I feel like a rapper right now, but I'm getting better. Painkillers have been a godsend, as with the antibiotics, and from now on we should see daily uploads between now and the end of Season 5. Thanks for watching, guys. Much love to you all. Hope it made some sense, and I'll see you for the next episode of the Summer Career Mode very soon.